I'm Jennifer Archuleta, the host of Unfiltered, where the truth hurts, but it also heals. This is a space for anyone willing to get honest with themselves, because in the end, it's you versus you. She's not just an athlete, she's a force of nature, a world record holder, an SB winner, a mother, a survivor, and a woman who has redefined what's possible again and again. From the grueling Marathon des Sables to the punishing climb of Badwater 135, Amy Palmiero-Winters has pushed her body, mind, and spirit farther than most of us ever will. But beyond the races, the medals, and the headlines, there's a deeper story of grit, grace, and purpose. Today on Unfiltered, I sit down with the one and only Amy Palmiero-Winters.
I do have a race. It's UTMB. It's 174 kilometers in France. You start in Chamonix, France, and you run from Chamonix, France, into Switzerland, into Italy, back into France.
Wow.
And it's going to start the evening of the 29th.
And this is the first time you're doing that race?
So this is actually my third time.
Oh, wow.
So the first time I made it to about mile 70 to 70-ish, and I was going to miss, my estimated time was going to miss the time cut off ahead, so they stop you.
Oh, wow.
And then last year, I knew something was wrong. I had an incision on my leg that we had just, I had an area on my leg that we had just opened up. We surgically revised it, stitched it up, and then 2 miles into the race, the whole thing split open. And on top of that, my spine collapsed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's when I just posted recent photos of where they put the 4 screws, the rods, and the lift in my spine to kind of put me back together.
You're still going to pursue it.
I have to get to the finish line.
So for anybody that hasn't heard your story yet, where did your journey begin?
I think my journey began at birth. I came out 3 months early with a fighting spirit, and I was driven to survive, basically. My sports growing up as a child included track, cross country, swimming, basically anything that was outdoors, just because of our home life. You know, we had a really tough start. We had a home that was very abusive. And for us, being outdoors was a sense of freedom. And for me, sports essentially helped me build the foundation that I would stand upon later on in life when I did have my accident.
Mm-hmm. And when the accident happened, you were on your Harley Davidson, right? And a woman hit you, right?
When I was growing up and going through the process of learning to drive, my father would take me out. I had this little Volkswagen Rabbit. It was fantastic. We called it the Flamer because it was in a garage fire. All the plastic was melted, and I was able to buy it for $475.
Oh my gosh.
It was a standard. It was fantastic. And it took diesel gas. I could literally go up to the gas pump and put 75 cents in and drive for weeks.
Wow.
It's amazing. But when I was learning how to drive, my dad would take me to this one specific area, and it happened to be at the end of our road. Mm-hmm. This area had an intersection where I pulled up to the intersection. My father would make me roll down the window. He would make me turn off the radio because the cars coming up over the hill from the right of me, you couldn't see them. It was a blind hill coming upon the intersection. So he would make me stop. He'd make me roll down the windows, turn off my music, no matter what it was like outside. I would sit there and I would wait to hear any kind of engine, any kind of motor noise. And when I didn't, I knew it was time to go. Fast forward, here I was riding my motorcycle, beautiful spring day. We're out riding. So because it was spring, it was still a little bit cool out. I had a great pair of boots on. I had jeans on, luckily, and I was driving up that road. And as I was driving up the road, everything kind of flashed back to me. Okay, if someone's at the intersection, they're not going to hear you. They're not going to see you. So you have to slow down. You have to be careful, because now I was that vehicle. Mm-hmm. As I crested the top of the hill, I saw a car sitting at the end. And I know people say it, but time really did slow down and almost stand still. Mm-hmm. Because as I crested the hill, I remember laying on the gas just because my motorcycle happened to be extremely loud. And I knew if I did that, hopefully she would hear me. Mm-hmm. I downshifted a couple times, because then that also increased the sound of the motorcycle as it was coming up over the hill to the intersection. As I crested the hill and came into the intersection, it was a woman. She was in a blue car. She had blonde hair, and her window was down. Mm-hmm. As I started to go through the intersection, we made eye contact, not just once, but 3 times. And after the 3rd time, I said to myself, she sees me. Yeah. And as I started to roll on the gas to go through the intersection, meanwhile, she had a stop sign. I did not have a stop sign. It was just coming up over a hill and continuing on to the highway. As I went through the intersection, she then pulled out in front of me. And I'm thankful for the fact that I did do a lot of dirt bike racing. I did do a lot of BMX bike racing, because I slid my bike sideways. And instead of hitting her head on and going over her car, I slammed into it sideways. And when I slammed into it sideways, my motorcycle and her car, the primary cover where my foot was, actually came in contact with each other, because there was blue paint on the primary cover where my foot was. So it crushed my foot in between the bike and the car. I immediately went into shock. I pulled over on the side of the road, and I just stood there with one leg up in the air. A friend of mine who I had known for many, many years came up over the hill behind me, obviously saw something was wrong, pulled up, jumped off his motorcycle, and actually picked me up off my motorcycle and laid me in the grass. And I remember I just didn't want anybody to see me cry. Number 1, I did not want anybody to see me cry. Number 2, I needed to be back to work, because I started at 6:30 in the morning. So whatever was going on, we had to get it done, because I had to get home. I had to get ready for work. I laid in the grass, and next thing I knew, an ambulance was there. And my thought was, why do I need an ambulance? It's just a broken foot. Let's get this taken care of. I'll get a cast on, I'll get whatever, and I'll be on my way. I remember in the ambulance, the pain was unbelievable. And all I wanted to do was hold someone's hand. And the ambulance, the medic, was fantastic. He was so great. He just held my hand. And when I got to the hospital, my mother was there, my father was there, and my boss. He showed up. And I remember the doctors coming in and telling my mother, they're like, does she have tolerance to pain? They just kept asking her questions, and they would leave the room. They would come back. They would leave the room. And all of a sudden, I remember my mother taking the doctor by his collars and saying, what is wrong with my daughter? And he said, I'm sorry, but we have to amputate her leg. Mm-hmm. He said, we're just waiting for someone to call and come get her before we have to do that. I remember laying there, and my boss came in. He said, don't worry, your job's okay. We'll see you as soon as you come back. And I still didn't really realize what was going on. I figured I just had a broken foot. One of my mother's friends, who was a nurse, came running in, and she said, Pittsburgh's on its way. So Pittsburgh had sent a helicopter. They touched down in Meadville, Pennsylvania. I got on the helicopter and flew off to Pittsburgh. I stayed there for 2 months, underwent an awful lot of skin grafts, vein, artery transplants to try and save the foot.
So when this happened, it was 1995. No cell phones, nothing like that. So everybody comes to, to see you in the hospital and things like that. But you just think it's a broken foot. But when that pain hit you in the ambulance, was there a moment where you thought it was something more? There was never a moment where you thought, I'm going to die? Nothing of the level of losing your leg ever came to your mind? You just thought it was,
Never.
Never?
Nothing. It never even crossed my mind. Even when I landed in Pittsburgh, I still didn't understand what was going on because I just figured it was a broken leg. But what had happened is when you have a crush injury like that, it disintegrates the bones, it crushes the veins, the arteries, the muscles, which then contributes to that intense pain that I was having.
And then when they said they were going to amputate your leg, what went through your mind? Were you thinking, what goes through your mind at that point? Is it like denial?
When it comes to, it's more so how am I going to be, how am I going to stand upon that foundation again? Mm-hmm. How am I going to get through a bad day without running? How am I going to move on in life without my leg? How am I going to walk? How am I going to run? It just, everything that allowed me to become who I was in that one moment was taken away.
And you had little kids then? How old were they?
I did not have children then, and that's another thing too. Who's gonna love me? Who's going to want me? Finding a job was even difficult because nobody wanted to take on the responsibility of an employee missing their leg. Back then, running 100 miles on a prosthetic wasn't something that you ever heard of. So hiring someone who was going to be able to complete their job requirements with a prosthetic wasn't very common.
So how old were you when this happened?
When I lost my leg, I was 19.
Okay, so you were very young. Okay, I didn't realize that. And then, so you didn't have a boyfriend at the time? You weren't married?
I did have a boyfriend
at
the
you
time.
Did?
Yeah.
And how did he handle that?
You want to know honestly?
Yeah.
So I was in the hospital for 2 months. It was very difficult on my family because the last time they were in Pittsburgh, which was a 2-hour drive from home, was when my brother died. Oh. He had died of heart complications. So my parents coming back to Pittsburgh, coming back to that hospital was very emotional for them. And all they wanted to do was fix their little girl, and they couldn't. My boyfriend at the time, oh my goodness. I remember I had saved all kinds of money. Every time I got a paycheck, I would put a couple $100 bills in this water bottle, and I had thousands saved. Mm-hmm. And I remember one day him coming to the hospital with a new Corvette and having used all my money up.
Oh my gosh.
And then I remember the day that I was going to be released, I called the night before and said, I'm getting out tomorrow finally. Mm-hmm. Can you come early? And I said, it's such a big day. And he's like, every day is a big day. I'm like, okay. So it was tough. It was difficult because I didn't really have anybody there with me because the distance was so far and everybody had to work.
Yeah. So your biggest support system was your family and this boyfriend, but things were different back then. I get it. No cell phones, the traveling, the people working. So you were really alone.
Yeah.
As a young woman, I'm sure the staff was great and things like that. Did you feel like you had phenomenal care, and did you feel good about that? Yeah, that's good. So what happens, what clicks in your head, after you get out Now it is a big day. You're getting out. So what happens in your head? Like, what's your next step? Literally.
My focus was basically being back to work.
And where did you work at the time? This job seemed very important, but I know, like, as a young person, every job is important at the time when you're like hustling.
Well, I think for me, working hard is something I'm so proud of. I was the one that would work double shifts. I was the one that would work 7 days a week. And it was something I was very proud of. I was proud of my work ethic. I was proud of the strength and the confidence that I had to do a good job. And I worked for a great company. So for me, at the time, I was in heat treating and then transferred into welding. So it was about getting back to work. Then here's another twist of the story. I remember going back to work with my temporary prosthetic, and I came in and I told my boss I was ready to go, ready to come back. And he said, "I'm sorry, I gave your job away."
Oh.
And I said, "Okay, that's okay. Is there anything else I can do?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, come back in a week." This progressed for maybe 4 to 5 weeks. And when I went in to get more of a permanent prosthetic, the company had said to me, "Well, I'm sorry, you don't have insurance anymore." And I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, your job was terminated and so was your insurance. So you actually have a window where you can pick up Cobra insurance." And the whole process came out of the end where I didn't have a job and I didn't have insurance.
Oh my gosh.
And for me, it was all about, okay, what am I going to do to support myself to get the prosthetic that I need? So I ended up working for a cleaning company, and I would get up at 3 a.m. and go clean department stores to get the insurance that I needed to have a prosthetic.
Wow. So at that time, you're living at home with your family?
No,
still?
I was living on my own.
You were living on your own. And then were you going to school at that time, or was that now on the back burner? Or was that something that you were thinking about, or?
So for me, growing up, everybody has dreams.
Yeah.
And I think from my time period, back in the Stone Age, you either wanted to be a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, a lawyer, a firefighter, a police officer, or an athlete. For me, I wanted to follow in my father's footsteps. I wanted to go to the Army, become military police, come out, and then become a state police officer, or be an Olympic athlete.
Wow.
So when I lost my leg, I lost all of those options. So I basically had to reinvent myself as well.
So you're cleaning at this cleaning company, and you're just like hustling. So then what happens? Then you're able to afford a prosthetic, because it sounds like you're very smart financially. Yeah. And then you get this prosthetic. When did you start running again and doing all the things that you used to do? When did you kind of feel like, I'm going to do what I used to do, I'm normal? Like, what clicked in your brain, and when did that happen?
I remember trying to run. It was very, very difficult because the prosthetic caused me a lot of pain. But I kept trying anyways. Fast forward, I ended up creating a bone infection because the prosthetic wasn't correct. I lost more of my leg, and because of that, I was actually given enough clearance below my limb to the floor to have a foot that had enough compression to it that it didn't transfer the stress into my body.
You just don't think about all the stuff that goes into it.
No, there's so much that goes into it, and you just think you go in, you have an amputation, you're going to come out and you're going to be walking, and that's not the case. There are certain lengths that are better for your limb to be. For myself as a female, I was lucky that I wasn't very fashionable, and I was not focused on wearing high heels or different types of shoes. I just wanted to run because essentially my limb was too long to even fit a component that would allow me to wear flip-flops or sandals. All I could wear was sneakers.
So then throughout your life, though, you're a fighter. You sound like, I mean, everything that has happened to you. Some people couldn't even take some of the things that happened to you, let alone losing their leg. What makes you different than other people? Like, what makes you? You said you were a fighter from the beginning. What is that? What is that like? Just to say, I'm going to continue to run. Most people would have given up. This is hard for me to put into words, but I'm trying to like just understand. I want people to understand your mindset and your never giving up and your fighter mentality and the discipline too. It's not motivation. Motivation runs out, but it's the discipline to just keep saying, I'm going to get up, I'm going to do it again and again and again.
I think in the beginning, when I first started, it was essentially to prove one person wrong, and that was my doctor, who said I would never walk without a limp and I would never run it. Finished my first marathon, proved him wrong, became married, had 2 children. And then, to be honest with you, when you have kids, it changes everything. Mm-hmm. My focus was to be the best mother that I could possibly be. And my children, being their biggest role model, how could I ever say I can't? How could I ever not reach higher? I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and he was talking about eating, and he was eating too much and he was gaining weight, and he had to figure out how to control it and work better in his life with it. And I said to him, when those things come up in life, just remind yourself how good you feel when you abstain from the donuts and the cookies or the alcohol. Those things are, well, basically those things, when they get in your body, they're negative. Mm-hmm. And they make you feel bad. They make you feel sad. They make you feel depressed. So why introduce them into your life? So for me, running was something that made me happy. It made me feel good about myself. It allowed me to be a better mother. It was also my goal, because not many of us get a second chance. Mm-hmm. And when you get a second chance, you better do your best, give your best, and be your best. Mm-hmm. That same young man who was sitting there yesterday is a Marine, mm-hmm. and he lost both of his legs in a landmine, in a roadside bomb. And I remember he had a post, and his post said, I didn't give up the rest of my life, and I didn't lose my legs so all of you could just skate by. Mm-hmm. When he said that, I had promised myself and him that I would give everything that I have to do service and justice to all of those who had lost. Mm-hmm. You know, fast forward, both my children are in the military. Yeah. And I went out for a run and just realized, if it wasn't for them and those heroes and all of them before them and those after, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do. I wouldn't be able to go and run these crazy races. So my determination, my resetting of goals, my new goals, my future goals, comes from the fact that we have the opportunity to do this stuff. And why are you just going to live your life? Mm-hmm. Fight to find the person that you could be. And you know, when I'm doing the workout and somebody starts walking, I'm like, why are you quitting on her? Why are you quitting on him? Don't they deserve better? Yeah. And obviously, you know, my kids, and who doesn't want to set new goals? Who doesn't want to reach new heights?
A lot of people don't. So that's why you're so inspirational, and I love everything that you do and everything that you stand for. I think it's amazing. And I'm going to ask you something personal, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but did the woman that hit you, did she know what happened? Did you ever have a conversation with her? Did she ever try to contact you?
I think that was one of the hardest things about all of it. is all I ever wanted her to do was say that she was sorry.
Oh,
I never heard from her. I'd never seen her again. Did she know? I don't even know.
okay. Yeah, I wondered. Maybe she did think it was just a broken foot, but maybe she knows, the extent of what happened and what you're doing now, especially with like social media and everything. I mean, it has to be in the back of her mind.
I just know that my life changed forever and it changed for the better.
Yeah.
I don't know where I would have gone or who I would have become without that. I always tell people and I associate everything to a workout. It's just easy to do it that way. I remember we were doing a challenge and we had to do 100 burpees per day for 100 days. And I said, okay, I'm going to do 100 burpees for me and then I'm going to do 100 for the person who can't. So I did 200 a day for 100 days. And on my last day, there was 3 or 4 individuals sitting, in the couch at the end of the gym. And they said to me, they're like, well, why are you doing that? Why would you do 200 burpees a day? And I said, because you might walk out that door and that might be the end of your life. You walk out that door and your life may be over. I know that I've given everything I can to every second, every minute of my life. And if I don't push beyond discomfort or push beyond tiredness or any of those feelings, that I'm never going to become the person that I could be. Mm-hmm. So if every time you do, if the workout says 5 rounds and you always stop at 5 rounds, could you imagine who you would become if you did 6?
Mm-hmm. That one extra rep, that's what they talk about. Just doing that one extra every time.
But could you imagine who you could become?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't want to live my life just settling. I want to be more than just the average Amy.
Well, you are. Let's talk about some of these races. Like, what is your favorite? First, what was the hardest? And which one did you think, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, I can't do this. But I know that you always finish them because that's who you are. But was there ever a time in a race where you're like, what the hell am I doing? I can't do this.
I think every time I start out a race, I say to myself, what the hell am I doing? I can't do this. Every time. It's like this magic 5-hour window where for 5 hours, I just want to turn around. I just want to go home. I don't want to do this. I'm tired. I'm uncomfortable. This hurts. This is a struggle. And then magically it all goes away.
Is there something you say to yourself that makes it go away? Or is it something within that just overcomes? Or what is it? Because for some people it doesn't go away. They quit.
They quit.
But what comes over you? Do you say something to yourself? Do you think about something?
I do. I just remind myself to keep taking that next step. It's going to pass.
It's just
and that's with anything in life. No matter what it is, no matter the struggle, you just have to keep taking that one more step because it will pass.
Yes.
It will get better and you will come out the other end. Mm-hmm. You just have to keep taking that next step or believe that there is light at the end of the tunnel because there is.
Yeah.
I think probably one of my most proudest races was making the U.S. 24-hour team by running 130.4 miles in 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that was my proudest moment. My toughest race by far has been UTMB, Ultra Marathon Mont Blanc. This coming up August 29th will be my 3rd time standing at that starting line to get to the finish line. We had done Marathon des Sables.
Yep.
I did Marathon des Sables in 2019 and crossed the finish line. In 2020, I think it was, I went back with Netflix. And what everybody didn't see behind the scenes was My 16-year-old daughter went with me.
Yeah.
She was a part of the Netflix crew. We flew from New York to Morocco, landed, got in the van, drove out to the desert 7 or 8 hours, got out of the van. The temperatures were 135 degrees. My daughter's body crumbled.
Oh.
She just crumbled. It was the most difficult thing to be around. She became so sick that she had to be in the med tent. She had 3 IV bags of fluid. Her temperature dropped below normal.
Wow.
And she looked up at me and said, "Mommy, please don't let me die."
Oh my gosh. And she was not in the race. She was just there to support and just to be there with you. And
Yeah.
she still had this reaction.
She had that reaction, and I had to toe the line and start that race. Honestly, I don't know what happened, but I had uncontrollable cramps. They were the worst things ever. They were debilitating. I couldn't move. I couldn't stand. I couldn't sit. I couldn't lay down. Just everything in my body cramped. My neck, my arms, my stomach, my legs. And it made it so I couldn't even take another step.
Well, I mean, I know all the races are very different and some are harder in some ways. Was the Sahara, was that like the toughest just because of the heat and the sand and those elements? Or is there something else that you've done? Because I think that's pretty gnarly. And that's the first time I saw you. And I was like, I could not get you out of my mind. I would run in the heat of the day trying to train for it. And that's when I reached out to you and I'm like, I got to do this and I got to do it with you because I just thought it was so amazing. But it was like just one of those things that haunt you. Once I saw you do that, I'm like, this is so badass. Like, I've got to do this. But I mean, it is intense.
It is. It's an intense race, and you have to carry everything that you need on your back for the next 7 days. So that, it takes you out of your comfort zone, and carrying that kind of weight is very difficult. When it comes to the toughest, my goodness, I think all of them are so difficult in their own unique way. Running bad water, it's 135 miles in the desert and you're going up the entire time. You're below sea level at 127 degrees and you're climbing to the highest in the continental United States. And it's just this long, drawn out road where you can see that mountain and that finish line in the background, and it's just taunting you for 40 hours.
Wow.
Western States has its own set of unique challenges. I remember learning about Western States and hearing a story of Jim Schimberg. Jim Schimberg was the first athlete with a prosthetic to ever do Ironman. He set out to be the first athlete with a prosthetic to do Western States. He got to mile 32 or 35 and missed a cutoff and told his wife, "That was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I will go back to complete it." 2 months later, in August, he was on a closed course in Hawaii. A cement truck got on the course, and the boom came loose, and it swung out and hit him and killed him.
Oh my gosh.
So for me, when I heard Jim's story, I said, I'm going to be the first, and I'm going to do that for Jim. And that was kind of one of the things that kind of started me on my pathway to running long distance races. I qualified for Western States and crossed that finish line after I had ran the World Championships in the 24-hour race. So in May, I ran the 24-hour race, World Championships in Brive, France. In June, I turned around and ran Western States, and I had so much trauma to my limb, but my focus was to cross that finish line for Jim. And I remember crossing that finish line, and my body completely went into shock from the pain that I was in. We turned around and did Vermont. So I'm trying to think they're all so unique and difficult in their own way. The death race, if you've ever heard of the death race, those are phenomenal.
No, I haven't. Can you tell me about that one?
And those are so difficult. Joe DeSena, he's the mastermind behind it. You don't know when you're starting. You're given a gear list a week before the race. One of the gear lists had 10 pounds of hay, 1 pound of grass seed, a bucket, a tuxedo, a hundred pennies, a shovel, an axe, a saw. What else? A bicycle. But you had all of this stuff in your pack, and you all of a sudden it was like, okay, you're going to start, and you're just running frantically through the woods. You have a 70-some-pound pack on you, and you might be digging someone's French drains for the next 10 hours.
Wow.
No food, no water, no sleep. The races usually ended up being around 72 to 80 plus hours. No sleeping, no food, no water. You had to figure it out on your own. Um, at one point, we had to build a brick wall to secure someone's house from flooding from the creek. So you were carrying boulders out. You might do, at one point, we had to do 3,000 burpees. And Joe said, Amy, you're going to lead the fast group. And if anybody goes out of place or out of sync, you start over. Mm-hmm. And we had, I want to say, I can't remember, 9 hours to do it. But this was after 40 hours into a race. It's 3,000 burpees, so it was down, up, jump, one.
Wow.
Then after that, raced down to the bottom of the mountain, and we had 12 hours to see who could crawl the farthest under barbed wire.
So, like, when you do these races, you do them alone a lot, or do you have some like your go-to person that you like do races with, or do you see some of the same crazy people at like different races? Like, oh my gosh, there's Joe again. Like,
Yeah, you always see the same great bunch. One of the races that I will say is my absolute favorite race is Cocodona. It's the time that I ran it was 255 miles.
I've never even heard of some of these. So, can you tell me a little bit more why that's your favorite? Where is it?
Cocodona is in Arizona, and you end up, I think, in Flagstaff. You are in the heat, in the mountains, running through towns. I think that one is my favorite because of the volunteers. The volunteers coming into the aid stations, everybody has their own unique menu, and one of them had the best BLTs I've ever had in my life. I've never had avocado on a BLT, and that was the first time, and it was spectacular.
So, do people ever judge you before a race? Like, do they ever, see you and they're like, oh, she's not going to do well or she's not going to make it? Or have you ever, like, experienced anything negative? Or are people pretty, kind? And I mean, I usually feel like when you do Spartan races, it's just a different group of people where they just love it and it's like community and things like that. Do you always feel the sense of love and community, or do you feel like sometimes there's those judgy people?
I think no matter what you do, there's always going to be judgy people. I remember recently I was doing the Broken Arrow in Lake Tahoe. It was 3 races. The first day was like a 5 mile run scramble up the rocks where you were hooked into a harness and you were, you know, summiting over a huge drop where there was nothing below you, climbing up the side of the rocks as fast as you can to get down to the finish and cross the finish line. The second day was running straight up and down the mountain. I think it was 48K. And then the following day was a 28K. And I remember being in the middle of the race and some guy was on the sidelines and he's like, yeah, he's like, you only got 1 foot to blister. So I'll hear stuff like that, and I'll hear how the prosthetic makes you faster, makes you better. And I always laugh because after that race, 40 days later, I was still trying to surgically close a wound that had happened on my limb. And I think it just comes from a lack of knowledge. People don't really think before they speak, and that's okay. I look at it this way: if they can say things to me and I can explain to them that that's not the case. You know, when you have your leg cut off and your leg atrophies, all you have is skin and bone, and then take that skin and bone and put it down inside a hard carbon frame. It's not that easy. Will you ever see me not smiling? No, because I'm so happy to be here and I'm so happy for the life that I have. I'll always be smiling and I'll always make it look easy, because compared to what could happen in life, it is easy. But I would love to have that other ankle to twist. I would love to have those toes to blister. And to be honest with you, does a prosthetic make me faster? No. I ran with two legs before, and you can only go as fast as your sound side will carry you. And my prosthetic leg has never made me run faster.
Tell me, just to educate people, how much does a prosthetic leg cost now? Especially if you want one to do the things that you're doing. And does insurance pay for them? I know that there's, you know, like if somebody were to need one like you did in the past and you didn't have insurance, like how does that work nowadays for people?
If you don't have insurance, you can probably check and find foundations. But I think for anybody, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, a prosthetic is for the rest of your life. So you have to believe in yourself and focus on yourself to get yourself to a point where you can sustain a job, because you need insurance and you need it for the rest of your life. Um, Prosthetics, my prosthetic that I'm wearing right now probably costs around $36,000. And the running one, I would say, is probably 28. One with a cosmetic skin on it that looks like your real leg is 48,000. And that's just my prosthetic is just a below the knee prosthetic. It doesn't have a microprocessor knee unit. It doesn't have a hip joint. It's the bare minimum.
Do you have a few prosthetics? Obviously, one for racing, one for, so you have a few of them. So it's
I'm very fortunate in that aspect, but I'm also very mindful of the fact that I have to stay in tune with my body. So if I have a prosthetic and I'm able to get a new one, I transition that old one into something else. So my high heel prosthetic to wear high heel shoes is from 2016. The one that I have that I wear in the shower is from 2014. The one that I have for running is actually from 2017. However, those feet cycle out, and when the feet cycle out, you do need new feet, and you just have to figure out how to get them covered.
they're custom made, so it's not like you can ever donate them and they could custom make it for somebody else, right?
Um, what you can do is I've taken a lot of my old prosthetics that I don't use. You have organizations that will take the components apart. They can't utilize what your limb goes down into, but they can utilize the feet. And what they do is they go to different countries, make the prosthetic socket, attach the components to it, and give someone a better life.
Oh, I love that. Um, you said something earlier on, which I love because I believe this, that when something bad happens, something good comes from it. You might not see it the next day, but you would say the accident that could ruin most people's life really changed your life for the better.
It did. Um, I remember laying there in the hospital bed, and I had a lot of anger. Anger at my childhood, anger at my father, anger at my mother. And I remember laying there in the bed and I realized it could have all been gone. So, you know what? I can't change the past. And sometimes it's difficult to forgive, but I can put it on a shelf and I can move on with my life and have a good life with the people that I love, have a good life with my family. Just for the simple fact that things do happen, people do change, and you might not be able to forgive or forget. Well, you might not be able to forget, but you can take it, you can put it up here, and you can move on. And that's what I did. I laid there in the hospital bed and I thought, oh my gosh. I thought of everything I did in high school and, running down the track at states, waving to the crowd in second place. And my father was like, what are you doing? He's like, you could have won. And I'm like, but I didn't want to. And I thought, my gosh, had I not goofed off and taken the gift that I had been given for granted, who knows where I would have been. That was also something that pushes me and drives me. Not many of us get a second chance. So no matter what you're doing in life, whether it's being a friend, being a mother, being a spouse, a partner, an employee, whatever it is, be the best version of yourself. Give your best. And at the end of the day, you might not have done your best, but you gave it your all. And that's all you can do is give it your all.
I agree. And be the best version of yourself for yourself, because you're just lying to yourself if you're pretending, and then you're found out sooner than later, right? Yeah. This is kind of a fun round, but I want to ask you a couple questions. Well, it seems like you're always racing. So when do you have time to train? Because I knew you did, you could Google you all day long and you could see the races you've done, but you're talking about some races I've never even heard of. So you're like always racing. So what does your schedule look like and what does your training look like?
Okay, this is where people are going to be like, what? So I work at least 80 plus hours a week. I'm the director at A Step Ahead Prosthetics. We have a location in Hicksville, New York, and we have a location in Boston, and I run both of those facilities. I love helping people. I love making a difference. And so for me, in addition to that, is being and providing for my children. I raised both of my children who are in the military serving our country on my own with no help, no support financially or emotionally. So for me right now, I want to be able to provide for them. I want to be able to help them. I want to be able to do for them. And on top of that, I love helping the patients. I love seeing them succeed when they've had something that they thought was going to destroy their life.
Mm-hmm. What would your advice be to somebody who comes in as like, my life is over? What do you say to them? Because it's easier for somebody to say, like yourself, because you don't have a limb. But if I were to say, oh, it's going to be okay, it doesn't come off the same, right? So what would you say, and do they kind of get it? Do you feel like?
Well, I think it's very difficult because everybody goes through phases of grieving. And my focus is pick a goal and we're going to get you there. And that's what it is. What are your goals? My goal is getting back to work. Okay, let's do what we need to do to get you there. I just spoke with a gentleman, and his goal as a sergeant in the NYPD is to pass his gun range test. He was laying in the hospital bed, and that was his focus. And I said, okay, I just went out shooting with my son. When you come out, when you get fit with your prosthetic, we're going to start training on your balance and your stability so you can maintain your gun stance. So you can stand and work on your core. And that was the focus. So for him, his focus is getting back to the gun range, getting stronger. And I feel that if everybody can set just a small goal, I don't want to say it distracts them, but it helps distract from what's going on with them. And to be honest, once you get past that beginning, everything just becomes a memory.
Yeah. Don't look too far ahead, just one step.
Just one step at a time. But when it comes to training, I do work anywhere from 85 to 90 hours a week. I don't have a lot of time to train, but what I do is military fitness training. It gives me the mental, physical, and emotional beatdown that I need to get through 100 miles.
Is that like a CrossFit, or am I watering it down?
Like watering it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you find these workouts? If I were to just see what you're doing on a day, can I just Google it? It's called a
You
military
can.
workout.
You can Google it, but most of the military fitness are they're owned and ran by veterans. Right now, I go to MFT, and Tony is a retired gunny sergeant. And I remember one day, this was when I was still trying to heal from my last race, and my leg was open. So I'm at the workout. I have my crutches. I have no leg on. He tells everybody, you got to run to the third hydrant. I come out with my crutches. I'm crutching down the road. I'm coming off the sidewalk. I wipe out on the ground. One of the other athletes turns to look back, and he's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? You keep running. And then, so I'm laying on the ground, and I jump back up, and he's like, it ain't the first time you've fallen, and it ain't going to be the last. He's like, get the fuck moving. And that was it. I was crutching, I was bleeding, and he didn't care. And that's what I needed. That's exactly what I needed. And have you ever been doing a workout? Let's say your arms are out here or here, and you have to hold them, and you can't hold them up, and everything is just burning, or you have to hold a squat for 5 minutes and everything is burning and your muscles are quivering. He has the uncanny ability and has taught me to turn off that pain and focus on something else so I can just stay there where everybody else's arms are dropping. And that's what it is, and that's what it's about. And I need that. And I also, every day, need that constant reminder that the freedom I have is not free. I'm so thankful that I get to be who I am and live out these crazy dreams. And it's because of all of those who keep us safe.
Yeah. So to all the servicemen and women out there, we thank you for your service. Grateful and thankful. Love America. And your children too. Like, how amazing. What's your favorite pre-race ritual?
I think my pre-race, my go-to is always, if it's within reach, is a the vegetable Subway sandwich and a beer.
Oh, wow. Before a race?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Okay, I love you even more. Okay, what favorite city or course you've run in?
Ooh, it's a toss-up between Chicago and New York. If I'm talking about an ultra, it's really got to be UTMB. The volunteers are what sets Cocodona aside, but when it comes to such a beautiful course, running and looking up at Mont Blanc and the Swiss Alps is absolutely stunning. The night sky is unbelievable because it's essentially untouched by man.
So if you could design your own race anywhere in the world, where would it be?
That's a tough one. I honestly, if I could design something, where would it be? It would be where everybody and anybody has access. Yes, it's great to be on a beautiful course, but if you can get people who've never been out there, who've never pushed hard, who've never thought they could, if you can give them access to one moment where they push hard and cross a finish line or complete a task or a goal and look at themselves and say, I did it.
Yeah, I know sometimes seeing somebody else accomplish something instead of yourself, or see something that you've already seen, there's more joy through those second eyes, I always feel like, you know? Morning or night races, what do you prefer?
Oh, morning.
Morning.
Yeah. UTMB is going to start in the evening. It starts at 6 or 7 p.m. So part of me is excited about it because I am going to run through the night. So my tiredness will hit more towards the day, and maybe it'll help me get over the hump of the next night. But nighttime running is always very difficult for me because I can't feel my left or my right foot. So then when I'm running and I lose that sense of sight, it makes it very difficult, and I tend to get doodle some and slow down and make excuses. And that's when the music and all of that comes into play. True story. The girls at work, they said, your birthday's coming up. And I'm like, do not get me anything. I don't want a card. I don't want a cake. I don't want nothing. But what I do want is I want voice memos. I want to have you out there with me in this race when it gets tough, when it gets hard, when I get tired or if I'm in pain. I want a voice memo of you out there with me, helping me push through it.
I love that. What if you could, like, if you had a title for a book right now, what would the title of your book be? That wraps up your life.
Unbreakable. I would say unbreakable.
I could tell you are. I love that about you. And then lastly, what has there been a race where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die, or something that we didn't hear about or know about, or did you see something in a race where you're like, holy crap, like, you know, this could be the end of that person, or something around you that was just, I'm sure you've seen a lot of crazy stuff just given the races you're doing.
So I've been in races where I've came to the finish line and a bear is there with her cub. I've been in the viaduct race where, oh my gosh, you had moonshiners and bootleggers hustling on their four-wheelers. It was so dangerous. It was so crazy. And then you also had a mama bear and her cubs on the course, which was pretty dangerous. But I think I've been with snakes. I remember running in the night of dark of bad water and hearing a rattlesnake, just praying. Well, actually, running in the dark of night in bad water, hearing a rattlesnake and being thankful that it was on my left side because that's where my prosthetic leg was. So if it bit me, I'd be okay. Lion, mountain lions, they've been on the course. But I think the scariest time for me was actually just recently. In July, I flew to Verbier. It's a UTMB race in Switzerland. And I remember being up on like a ridge line. To the left of me, if I slipped and fell, I was dead. To the right of me, I slipped and fell, I would be dead. Climbing on that ridge line where there was just minimal area for my feet, because I keep trying to walk like this, but the prosthetic leg would always catch on my real leg and trip me, and then not having the ability to feel my feet. I called my husband hysterically crying that I couldn't go any further. I was gonna die. I was so afraid I was gonna fall off the side of the cliff. And I got to the next aid station, and it was so high up that the only way to get you down was by a helicopter. So needless to say, I rested until the morning sun came up and then went about my way. So you know what? If I'd have just kept taking one more step, one more step, one more step, I'd have been fine.
Did you ever see anybody get really hurt or injured in any of these races or almost die? Like the Sahara always, like, I always think back to that one. I mean, what is the worst thing you've seen? People really pushing themselves.
The year that I was there with Netflix, we did have a gentleman die.
And it was like just dehydration, or do you know what it was? A heart attack? Was it the heart attack? I think I Googled that.
Yeah, I think it was a cardiac arrest, and it's so saddening. But the only thing that you can say is, I mean, he passed away doing something he loved.
Yeah. What does a relaxing day look like for you? Do you ever like just lay out in the sun? Maybe like, you know, do you sit down? I feel like you'd probably never sit down. Do you watch like a movie or anything like that ever?
I do. At the end of the night, I'll watch different series. The recent series that the kick that we were on was Animal Kingdom. Oh my gosh.
What do your kids think about you?
My son and daughter had said to me when it got tough in boot camp, when they didn't think they could make it, they said they thought of me And because of me, they knew they could, and they kept going and they pushed. That right there, I guess, sums up what they think of me.
And that's like mission accomplished for everything you wanted to be as far as their mother. That must have felt, I mean, I could cry right now. That must have felt so good to hear that.
To have them say, I knew I could do it because you did it, means everything. To know that they can get through everything. But that's what we do as parents. You're there to lead by example. And you are their best role model. You are their hero. I have a group that works out. Once COVID hit and everybody lost their gyms, I knew that a group of girls that I associated with, they were going to lose their fitness and lose that one thing that made them feel good, that one thing that made them happy. So I would throw all the equipment in my vehicle and I would drive it like 400 meters across the road. I would pull it all out at 5 in the morning. I would put a workout up, and at 5 in the morning, anybody who wanted to come could come and do a workout. We knew that the winter was approaching, so my husband, as handy as he is, took our garage and built an entire gym in it. Took a solar pool cover and replaced it with AstroTurf. The only membership due to the gym that we had here at the house on the side was no complaining, no whining, and no quitting, and spray your equipment down with alcohol. So every morning at 5:30 in the morning, I would open the garage, pull out the AstroTurf, and everybody would be able to work out, feel good about themselves, and be in a healthy environment.
Well, we all think we have limits until something happens that makes us realize there aren't. So you feel like in your life, there's no limits, there's nothing you can't do. And right now, like, do you see like a retirement in your future? Like, is there anything like that you want to accomplish and then like be like, okay, my body is just tired, or maybe I'm getting a little bit older and I don't want to feel like these aches and pains, or are you just going to just keep going?
I do know that last year at UTMB, when my body collapsed and my spine essentially collapsed on my sciatic nerves, it opened my eyes to what I was doing to my body. I want to be there for my children, for my grandchildren. I don't want to live a life and say that I can't. So, am I going to pick and choose my races selectively? Yes.
And anything else? I saw this beautiful photo shoot you did. You were wearing this really sexy dress. And what was that for?
That was for scars.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about that?
The founder of the foundation is Chastity, and she had sickle cell anemia. She's a beautiful model, absolutely beautiful, and she has a scar. And it's about your scars make you unique, your scars make you strong. And don't hide your scars. Be proud of your scars and who you are. And it was getting us out there. She was giving us the opportunity to feel beautiful in spite of the scars that we had, but also be out there to show others that your scars can empower you. Your scars do not have to hold you down, hold you back, limit you.
Well, if you can leave us with a favorite quote or something that really motivates you, or something you think about to keep you going when things get tough, what would that be?
As hard as it is, I think you just have to remember to believe in yourself. And no matter what you're doing, whether you're racing, whether you're living life, when you have that negative voice in your head, you have to stop it. You have to get it out. You have to get away from it. I told one of the women that I coached, she would say, I can't, I'm too fat, I'm too this. And I said to her, what would you say if someone told your little granddaughter that she was ugly, that she was fat, that she couldn't? What would you say? She's like, I'd kick that person's ass. And I said, so why are you saying that to yourself? So I think that's one thing that I want to leave everybody with. When you're doing something, no matter what it is, and that voice in your head says, You can't. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not strong enough. You're not smart enough. What would you do if someone said that to your sister, your brother, your daughter, your wife, your husband, friend? You would kick their ass. So why are you going to do that to yourself? Why are you going to let someone do that to yourself? And I think that people have to remember, when it gets tough, when it gets hard, you have to be positive. Positive overrides everything. You have to take one step at a time, one day at a time, and battle those voices in your head that say you can't, that say you're tired, that say you're in pain, that say you want to give up. You have to tell them no. And you have to tell them that you can, and that you will, and that you are strong, and you are beautiful, and you are smart. Think of a bully. If nobody reacts to a bully, they stop. A bully does what they do because they get reaction, because they get fear, because they get feedback. So if you don't give that bully anything, they're not going to bother you. So when you're out there running, or when you're out there focusing on your goals, don't let anything negative in. Don't let negative people in. They're not your people. They're not your life.
Because we really have no control over this life. We only have control over our thoughts. Yes. You can only control your thoughts. And so if you feed it with positive stuff.
Yes, and every day is a chance to rewrite your story. I'll leave you with something. When I was a little girl, I thought I could fly. I literally thought I could fly. So I climbed to the top of a building behind my parents' house. I jumped off and I broke my collarbone. And my mom was like, "What were you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I thought I could fly." She's like, "You can't fly." And I was like, "But nobody ever told me that." I never thought I was ugly until somebody told me. I never thought I was fat until somebody told me. I never thought I couldn't until somebody told me. People will say, "How can you go outside and just wear a tank top and shorts? It's freezing out." I didn't know it was cold. We would be the children with our fingers and toes, everything would be blue because you just wanted to play, until somebody kept telling you, "It's too cold, you can't be outside. It's too hot, you can't be outside." So every day is a chance to rewrite your story.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to become a product of your environment and the people around you. So that's very good advice, Amy, and appreciate it. And I wish you could live stream some of these races so we can watch you, or YouTube or something. If you could get somebody, just so we can see all the stuff that you're doing, not just like a couple seconds.
Well, maybe when I'm out there, if Christopher has signal, I'll have him do a couple live feeds.
Okay, well, looking forward to it. And when's your birthday? Is it coming up?
It is Monday.
Oh, wow. Okay. And well, happy birthday. And we're rooting for you for your next race. And say what your next race is again.
My next race is UTMB. It's August 29th, Friday. I think it starts between 6 and 7 p.m.
And that's in France, right?
It's in France. We start in Chamonix. We run from the little town into Switzerland, into Italy, and then back into France.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to keep track of all these races now. And you've inspired me. Maybe we'll still do the Sahara, if that's still on your list. I know you've done it a few times. It might be checked off by now.
No, but I would do it with you.
I love that. All right. Well, thanks, Amy.
Thanks for listening to Unfiltered. And remember, the truth hurts, but it also heals. If this episode moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And now it's time for the pup of the podcast.